Everybody, Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sundays, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern, Saturday mornings with Jim Valley, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 Eastern, Sundays with Andrew Zarian. And yes, we're here today. It is Monday here on the show. You know what that means? We got a lot to talk about. Raw is tonight, and we got 7 matches announced for Raw. A lot of matches announced, so we'll tell you about all of those. We are heading towards the, actually got a couple of pay-per-views coming up, including the NXT show, which is this coming Sunday. We got the lineup for that show as well. We got the AEW lineup for Loveland, Colorado. 3 segments announced thus far, 2 matches, and the return of MJF. Plus, June 9th, which is this coming weekend, we got Dominion, and a number of matches announced for that show as well, including our King of Pro Wrestling 2024 Championship match. New Stips, we'll tell you about those. Also, all the news from the last couple of days. What's going on? What's going on with TNA is a big question. I couldn't tell you, but a lot of people gone from TNA Wrestling, and that includes people who have worked there for decades. And so a lot of concern about what the future holds for TNA. We'll tell you about that here today. Plus, we got some upcoming matches. Forbidden Door. We had an angle shot this weekend for Tony Storm's match at Forbidden Door. We got Jon Moxley defending the IWGP title coming up this weekend. We'll tell you what's going on there. Ricky Starks. Interesting story about Ricky Starks. Tony Khan saying he would love to have him back involved in AEW. And honestly, I don't know why he's not involved in AEW, except Tony's not booking him for AEW. So we'll talk about that. Plus, Mark Henry and Matt Riddle, both involved with MLW in different roles. And, of course, the Collision, SmackDown reports, and plenty more. So back in a moment to kick it off, Observer Live.
With Mercedes, I have the same advantage where it's like, well, I have wrestled her before. So anytime you're wrestling somebody you already have experience against, you have a little bit extra knowledge going into it. But I am someone who has been wrestling for the entirety of the past year. Mercedes has not, and we really don't know what she has been doing in the meantime. Whereas all of my recent work has been out there for her to study. So there is a little bit of like, I don't know what to expect, but also I was her last opponent and I beat her. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed, keep working hard, and we'll see how it goes. As far as like my title reign, what I want to kind of be taken away is obviously Chris Statlander is someone who's so very close to me. I've known her for years and years and years. We both came up in Long Island wrestling together, and it's really great to be at this stage together and have her like right by my side for all of it. So I look to her as someone who was like an amazing TBS champion in my opinion, who was like constantly working like Dynamite, Rampage, Collision, back and forth, like all the time wrestling, and just like showing how like you can't mess with her. She's the best. She's a champion for a reason. So I hope to follow in her footsteps in that regard. But one thing that I am particularly proud about my role in AEW is I've noticed, or I guess I take pride in like being someone who's gone overseas, gone to work with our partners at New Japan and CMLL, and I've wrestled in Japan and in Mexico so far, being like the first woman in our division to go representing AEW specifically. And personally, I hope that I would have opportunities to bring in people from different countries. You know, I think we have an amazing roster. I want to face as many other girls that we got here as possible, but also if we could get any of those Stardom, CMLL wrestlers in, if that could be possible, I would love that. I want to be a fighting champion.
Back on the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. This from Post Wrestling. Missy Hyatt has disclosed she had her own incident involving Vince McMahon several decades ago during her brief stint with the WWF. Hyatt did a pair of interviews over the weekend with Wrestling Shoot Interviews and Cafe de Renee, describing McMahon attempting to kiss her in a hotel room in 1987. She was brought in for vignettes, Missy's Manor, which they filmed at various tapings, but never made it to television. I had noted the segments were, quote, so horrible and weren't a good fit for her character. This was when WWE was attempting to fill the void left by Piper's Pit, following Roddy Piper wrapping up at that year's WrestleMania. I've actually been watching a lot of those 86 WWF Challenge shows. And boy, did they like their talk shows back then. I can't tell you how many of these snake pits I've seen with Jake the Snake, which, if you've never seen them, they're just like, they're so wacky. It's like Jake interviews some babyface, and the babyface comes out, and Jake tries to make some snide remark, and the babyface always one-ups him. And then they get to the final one. These segments are like, they're like 2 minutes long. And then Jake has one final, and he thinks he's got him. And then the babyface has some zinger. And then Jake goes, he gets all angry, and the babyface confidently walks off. It's like, this is so different from so much you see nowadays. Where, like, the heels, they want to be cool, the cool heels. Jake was a guy who he was not cool. And he did not, he sold for these baby faces. He made them look great. But anyway, she claimed that a night in Las Vegas after taping the first segment of Missy's Manor, went out to dinner with McMahon and a large group of people. In her 2001 book, she noted Dick Ebersol was among them and also Gene Okerlund. Later that night, she said, I had to push Vince out of my hotel room as he was trying to stick his tongue in my mouth. Notice she was engaged at the time to Eddie Gilbert, wasn't going to cheat on her partner. In her book, she did not disclose the incident in the hotel room, but was complimentary of McMahon during her brief tenure. The segments were March 21st in Vegas, March 22nd in Phoenix, April 23rd in Worcester, according to History of WWE. She had turned down McMahon's advance, was offered a smaller role as a featurette. Guys remember the featurettes? Yeah. Hyatt was not interested in that role and left. She stated she'd spoken.
How many people listening right now remember the fact?
I'll talk about them in a minute. Right. Stated she'd spoken to the lawyer of Janelle Grant, offered to be a witness to describe Vince's behavior. This would have been 8 months after the allegations by Rita Chatterton. Yeah, the featurettes. Listen, I've been watching all the stuff from that era, but I've been watching all of the WWF challenge shows, and literally, you would see a featurette for 2 seconds during a 1 hour show. They would just be coming back from commercial, and there'd be some woman, and they'd say, it's one of the featurettes! And then, that was it.
They were
that was the role.
Ringside valets.
Yeah.
To take things to and from the locker room.
Yep. So, that's the latest. More on Post Wrestling, if you want to check it out. But add Missy Hyatt to the list. Then we've got all of this going on in TNA, a completely different set of unfortunate circumstances. Lou D'Angeli no longer with the company. The former sign guy Dudley. He'd been vice president of marketing since 2002. He'd been WWE's director of marketing, 2006 to 2010. Worked for Cirque du Soleil in the meantime. His assistant also gone. So currently, they have no marketing team, they have no live event team, and they have nothing booked after the first week of August. Everyone, Dave says, is kind of waiting. They know something's up, but they don't know exactly what. Scott D'Amore was let go, raised a lot of eyebrows. Everything we have heard is Anthem is trying to spend less. I think the situation was that whatever the losses were, they were more than Anthem was happy with to keep the number one rated show that they have. So R.D. Evans resigned. He had been part of creative since 2019. David Sahadi resigned, or he's gone. I actually don't know what happened, but he was let go. Yeah, He'd been there since like 2004. He'd been there for like 20 years.
Sometimes the only good thing on the entire broadcast were his video packages.
Yeah, he did those video packages with the deep-voiced guy.
Mm-hmm.
And the video packages were great. But yeah, this place is being gutted right now. So we shall see. D'Amore offered to buy the place and was turned down. So I guess at some point we'll find out if was he turned down because they weren't interested in selling, or was he turned down because they didn't think that was the right price if they end up selling.
Or they want another suitor, possibly. Another suitor that has sold off all of its TV rights for its current products and could use maybe another group that could be NXT, but not NXT. It can be TNA, and they can have tiers to NXT and TNA. I don't know if that's a long shot or not. The WWE would have interest, but if it is hemorrhaging money, which it seems like it is, and there was that little hope spot that Dave talked about towards the end of last year where it seemed like they were actually gaining some momentum and some followers again. And that obviously was either a fleeting moment or numbers were wrong or something, because they have not been able to keep it up. They've had trouble drawing in Las Vegas where they put a lot of their eggs. So, if they're willing to ditch this and WWE all of a sudden now has on YouTube TV, they were able to continue that carriage deal through Anthem, and they're able to actually, again, just expand their portfolio in a very unique way by, of all things, buying TNA. I mean, who knows? It's possible.
I've heard far more people talking about the possibility of Tony buying TNA. Because at the end of the day, let's think about all these things at WWE.
That's insane, Brian.
Well, hey, he bought Ring of Honor. I don't know what they would sell TNA for.
Well,
I mean, here's the thing. Yeah.
Drive up the price on them.
Here's the deal. What did WWE, remember when they were in that we're going to buy all these promotions, etc.?
Yeah.
Well, they wanted the video library for WWE Network.
Yeah.
Now they're on Peacock.
Yeah.
What's the last thing they added to Peacock? Nothing.
It's been a while.
They don't add anything to Peacock anymore.
Who knows when the thing moves if they're going to bring anything with it, Brian? But that's why I'm wondering do they look at it, since it's already got an established show, as basically a fourth brand you can put on something smaller than CW or something less impactful, where you're doing it literally to open up another revenue stream and to basically take another avenue away possibly from AEW. Now, I think they're going to stay with WBD. I think Tony really wants that, and I think it's beneficial for WBD if AEW stays with them. But with that said, WWE goes, we're going to put this on the cheap on Paramount just to take away that option or something like that. I mean, crazier things have happened.
Well, we'll see. I don't know what they'd... Listen, I'm not even getting more WWF challenges. If I can't even get that, you think I'm going to get Impact?
I want Florida. Give me Florida.
Well, they're adding nothing.
Please.
And I wouldn't be surprised if the things went on, they just started taking things off of Peacock.
Well, just look. Just last week, the final contract with an indie ran out as WXW got pulled off, so there's no more progress. I don't know. I would assume Evolve is not on there anymore. They're not bothering with any of that stuff anymore, because what's been proven is, unfortunately for people like me that like history, and for people out there that wanted something different like that stuff on the site, it just doesn't put enough numbers in. It's all about premium live events, and again, if you add TNA to that, I'm not saying that it would be a great benefit, but I'm sure they would figure out a way to trump it up during press releases and trying to sell the thing.
Tony Storm has challenged Mina Shirakawa.
It's only natural.
Storm appeared with Mariah May during Stardom's event at Korakuen Hall on video and said that she has noticed Shirakawa coming to May's aid when she isn't around. She said that she has opened the forbidden door and challenged Shirakawa to a match, saying that while any friend of May's is a friend of hers, she wants to see what kind of a woman Shirakawa really is. And Shirakawa accepted the challenge. We'll talk more about this one after the break. Observer Live.
It's a great question. Definitely, I think in the Hangman Page matches, that's when Swerve, I think, during his rivalry with Hangman Page, stepped up another level. I mean, I've thought for a long time Swerve's really, really interesting, in Casino Battle Royale in 22 and the Royal Rampage in 22. Swerve really, not long after he arrived in AEW, started making a splash, throwing out some of the biggest names in AEW, swerving people in Casino Battle Royale 22, swerving people in the Royal Rampage, and then getting involved with his own tag team partner and kind of a rivalry, and then becoming a world champion as a tag team star, and then breaking out in a singles rivalry. He just kept stepping up further and further and further. But I definitely think the biggest leap was during his rivalry with Hangman Page, and I think that's one of the best rivalries ever in AEW, Swerve versus Hangman. And tonight, I think he cemented his legacy, became the world champion officially, but certainly in recent months, I think Swerve and Samoa Joe has become this incredible rivalry. And it really, in recent weeks, I thought they had one of the best contract signing segments I've ever seen. And there's been so many contract signings in wrestling. We've seen so many. And I think for me, Swerve and Samoa Joe will go down as one of the best. And also, really, on Dynamite, went off with an amazing moment with that Swerve stomp on the pile and then the Muscle Buster. And they went into the pay-per-view on such a high note and then had an amazing match in the main event and left the pay-per-view on an amazing high note. It's been a really great week for the company in so many ways. And I think really, definitely Swerve has stepped up. But if the moment I think he took that leap is when you beat a former world champion like Hangman Page in iconic rivalry. I think that, really cemented him to me. MJF, one of the biggest stars in AEW. We haven't seen him in recent months. And I would love to get MJF back here soon, sooner than later, like really soon. We would, we've got so many great things happening, and I think that would be really additive. He's one of our great wrestlers, and we've had great things happening in AEW lately. A lot of great milestones just in the last really couple months. I mean, to go from Revolution, one of the best shows top to bottom, great matches, like we listed out all the great matches, and to hit the button of Sting's retirement, maybe one of the greatest send-offs ever. I think the greatest send-off ever. And then have Jon Moxley win the IWGP World Championship, coming to Jacksonville this week to defend it against Powerhouse Hobbs. And then have Dynasty be such a huge home run. Everything's going so great for AEW right now. I think that would be something that would add a lot. That'd be awesome to have MJF back, and soon. I would love that.
Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. I ain't feeling this Mina Shirakawa storyline.
What are you talking about?
Not feeling it at all. It's like, well, you had Tony, and like everyone's talking about this great long-term storyline. But to me, it's like, okay, well, we had Mina and, we had Mariah and Tony together for a long time. Then one day, completely out of the blue, Mina Shirakawa shows up.
With champagne.
And they made out. And then she disappeared again.
Yeah, well.
And then about 3 weeks later, she showed up a second time. And then she completely disappeared again.
Yeah.
And now her and Tony are having a match for Stardom.
Yeah.
That's not a story. That's a series of events that occurred. And like, that's it.
Well, sometimes there's a lot of that there. And look, the only thing I will mention is, if you haven't seen it yet, and I know that you have not, you should check out RJ City's show where he interviews Mina Shirakawa and completely takes advantage of the fact that English is not her first language, and it is absolutely fantastic.
This person here says, do you think when the split happens, they're going to put Tony in the heel role or the babyface role? Anybody want to make a monetary bet? Because I'll tell you what I think.
Well, they're going to keep her a heel?
Tony is going to be the heel, and Mariah is going to be the babyface
That's
in this feud.
Doesn't make any sense.
I will put money on that.
this whole thing isn't going to make any sense. The fact that if they're rushing a split between the two, that's insane. It is insane. I don't care what part Mina Shirakawa plays in this. She's not moving to America full time to be a part of the AEW roster. So your main focus on this whole thing is keeping Tony and Mariah together because it is way too early to split them apart. And the fact that Tony is still, I guess, a heel. I guess she's a heel. Is Serena a babyface? I don't know what's going on there, but to me, Tony Storm should have a babyface run for a little while. And then if you bring back Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker, if you ever bring back Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker, that's a perfect way for those four to go at it for a little bit, and then you can break them up. I mean, why you would break them up so early when the thing works, and then if you split them up, okay, then what? Then after Toni Storm gets her revenge on Mariah, is Mariah in a better spot? They're better off together and continuing this thing on until you really build it to a point where the fans actually want it.
You know, I also didn't like another segment last night or Saturday Night on Collision.
What's that?
And to this day, people still don't get what the issue is. When Roderick Strong beat Leo Rush, and then he went to Tony Khan and he demanded a world title shot, and Tony said that sounds like a great idea. And all I have seen this weekend with people trying to defend it is people saying Roddy only lost one time all year. The issue is not who asked for the title shot. This has nothing to do with Roderick Strong. This has to do with the fact that they had a casino battle royal. The story is that two people start, person enters, random intervals, whatever, and whoever gets the first pin wins. Those are the rules. I even talked about how I'm fine with it now. Those are the rules. 21 people were eligible for this gauntlet. It ended with person number 9. What is 21 minus 9? 12? Okay, so 12 people didn't make it into the gauntlet. But that's the rules. So Roderick Strong won a match over Leo Rush. He walked into Tony Khan's office, who, by the way, I thought Chris Daniels was the new Tony Khan, but he just walked right past Chris Daniels to the actual Tony Khan, who laughed through the entire segment, which didn't make it better. And Roderick Strong says, I should have been in the gauntlet. I was number 10. But it ended before I got in. Therefore, I was screwed. I demand a world championship match. Okay? So the point of the gauntlet was whoever won got a world championship match. Roddy is claiming that I never entered, even though that's fair and that's the rules. And because I never got a chance to get in, I just deserve to be gifted a world championship match. And Tony said, that is a great idea. This is stupid.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with Roddy. It could have been any of the other 11 people who also didn't get into the gauntlet because it ended before they got in. Wardlow? Jack Jameson? Whoever. The issue is not who it was. The issue is the argument doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I don't care. Roddy didn't go in and say, Tony, I didn't get a chance to get in the gauntlet, and I have only lost one time this year. I am undefeated except for that one match, which, by the way, I lost a championship in. I would like a shot at the title Wednesday. That's still a stupid argument, okay? But it's better than, well, I never even made it in, so I deserve a shot. And the guy goes, okay, well, that's a great idea. It's stupid. It's not about Roddy. And people are so defensive of this. They're like, well, it's because of Roddy. He's 12-1 or whatever. I don't care. It doesn't make sense at all. So anyway, hopefully we can move on now. The match is happening. We know what's going to happen.
Not quite. Christopher Daniels looked like an impotent dork.
Well, yeah, I don't know why. You know,
he's supposed to be on the level of the guys that can tell production during a live match to control everything. With the guys with the no-cut contracts, he's supposed to be, through Tony Khan's power, at the level of them, and instead, you just walk up and all of a sudden the owner is once again this weirdo bobblehead doll that is just, why is he even a character on this show? Why?
Well, his role. Hold on. Let me at least say what Daniel's role was. He was assigned literally on the prior show to be the temporary EVP, and so anytime that Tony needed to get something done, Daniels would be the guy that goes out and makes, like, he's Adam Pearce.
Why isn't that what Tony Schiavone does now through the headset?
But the point is, Mike. The point is, you established this on Wednesday. And by Saturday, everyone was just going directly to Tony again.
Yeah. Kind of incompetent. That would show incompetence in a structural level, you know? But, yeah. And here's the thing, too. If your first response to that is, well, Piper Niven attacked Bayley and now she gets a touch. It's a bad excuse. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't try to pull up something else that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but it makes a whole lot more sense than what that was. I don't know. Again, that's taking an L right there if you decide to do that. But there were a couple, as you mentioned, there was more than that on this show as well, too. But there were also positives. I don't know if you want to get into any of those on the show. Swerve had a really good promo, and there were actually some good matches on
the Swerve promo actually gave me an idea that I had never thought about, but it occurred to me because I also watched SmackDown. So, you know how many times we've watched like a Collision or whatever, and in the main event's like, this is the main event? Or Rampage, for example. Rampage main event was Phoenix versus Isaiah Cassidy, which was not even a ladder match qualifier. It was for nothing. Yeah. They just randomly had Phoenix versus Isaiah Cassidy. That was like the last match on the show. And, that segment will die. But, I thought, what WWE does? When they have a main, in the old days we used to do this because it was silly. We would go back and we would go, the actual main event of Raw was? It was Mark Henry versus just some random match. But it actually wasn't. It was the wrestling main event. Yes. But of course they finished with a main event segment with main eventers.
It's like a Cody Roman bloodline segment.
Yeah, whatever.
Or something.
So, oftentimes AEW will have these shows, and you're like, what is this main event? Like, this is not a main event match. But that's fine. End with a main event segment. And I was watching Collision, and the funny thing is they had both. Like, Collision had a great main event, which actually wasn't really a marquee main event. It was Will Ospreay and Kyle O'Reilly, which was an incredible match, but it's not really like you're not going to draw like a lot of viewers with that match. But the point is, when it was over, they had an interview with the world champion, and it was an awesome interview, and it was a great way to end the show. And granted, I realize you couldn't have done this because Swerve was, he was addressing things that had happened on Collision. But, both these shows would have been way better if Will Ospreay would have main evented Collision. I mean, it's Will Ospreay in a championship match, by the way. So even with Kyle O'Reilly, that's like a big main event. And then on the other show, instead of ending with Phoenix and Isaiah Cassidy, it's like, okay, the match ends. Now let's welcome the World Heavyweight Champion, Swerve Strickland, who comes out for like a big interview. You could even do an angle or something. You always should end the show with stars. Even like Raw, where the third hour always dies, you're always going to have a death in the third hour because it's always going to drop after 3 hours. They still throw out a main event segment with main eventers doing a main event angle. They never just throw that last thing away because, it's 3 hours, who cares? You still try. So I think that they should always end with main eventers, even if you've got a match that's Isaiah Cassidy versus Phoenix with no stips. Back in a moment, Observer Live.
drop.
Sorry, but you don't have your shell yet.
That's it. Pin him. Damn, you gotta stop landing on your head like that.
Let's go, Treehouse.
So your name's Turtle.
It's broke for sure.
Figure four? A figure four? You can know the figure four? That's too funny. And a sleeper. Where's the Enziguri?
He likes it. Use more.
You look bad on that one.
Drop it back.
On that. That's it. Super kick. Uh-oh. Oh, he gets crushed.
Show Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. People asking about Filthy. No, there's not a Filthy show this afternoon.
Oh.
For some reason, he worked this weekend, and they booked him a flight home at like 3:30 in the afternoon. So he's just sitting around L.A. doing nothing all day. So Mike, however, is gone tomorrow, and so it will be me and Filthy here on Observer Live tomorrow.
He's got a lot of explaining to do once again.
At least I hope that's the plan. I asked him. I don't think he answered yet.
Nah, he's not going to be sitting there with the MLW World Heavyweight Championship, so he's going to have to explain everything that went down against Satoshi Kojima and him not even being able to get himself another title shot because he did not win Battle Riot 6. So,
Nah, that was Matt Riddle.
he's having a tough time right now, although I'm sure
Matt
he took
Riddle
some
is?
solace. No, well, hopefully he's having a bad time as well, too. But Filthy is having a bad time right now. But I did hope that he took some solace in watching the West Coast Wrecking Crew get beat up so badly on Collision on Saturday.
Mark Henry was also there at Battle Riot 6. He's, of course,
being
no
big.
longer with AEW. There are going to be various AEW contracts coming due, and the people will just quietly move on. That appears to be...
And in some cases, probably not so quietly.
Well, yeah, there will be some who will not so quietly move on. That is a fact. Which brings us to this interesting interview. I still cannot figure this out for the life of me.
Let me guess. Ricky Starks?
Yeah, Tony Khan says he would love to have Ricky Starks back involved in AEW. He says, I really like Ricky a lot. Last time we saw him here was in the World Tag Team Championship Tournament. He and Big Bill formed a great team. They were the champions. They had a great run, culminating in the last televised match in the legendary career of the Icon Sting. I think it was a huge thing that Ricky and Bill had their run culminated in such an important match. We talk about 5 years of AEW. Maybe to me, the most special part is he goes on to talk about Sting. And then he says, I think Ricky Starks is tremendous. I'd love to get him involved and back in AEW anytime. He's been a huge part of...
talk to Chris Daniels first.
What do we even do? Yeah, who does he have to talk to? And by the way, this is another one. I mean...
Yes.
What's the first thing everybody said when Tony did this interview? Well, Ricky is hurt. Which was the same thing we heard about Britt Baker going on over a year now.
That's not the first. That's the first thing a bunch of people who've been throwing that up, even though he's not hurt. He said
that's
he's
what
not
I'm.
hurt.
That's what I'm telling you.
Good Lord.
He said this. I'm not hurt. So if he's here's just a question. I just have a question, everybody. You don't get mad at me. If he's not hurt, and Tony wants him to come back, and Tony is the boss, why is he not back?
Long-term booking.
I don't know. But Tony would like to have him back.
You know who could have had a baby by now? Dr. Britt Baker.
Actually, she could have.
In 2 weeks, it will be exactly 9 months since she has been gone. And from what I've heard, when you say, where's Britt Baker? Well, she's hurt. Well, the thing is, she says she's not hurt, and nobody in medical is saying that she's hurt. So she's not hurt?
She's also not pregnant.
No. And if she is, Adam, you know what? I'm going to leave it there.
We had SmackDown on Friday and Collision on Saturday. And
it was taped on Thursday.
Yeah. I'm getting ready for people to drop off the channel as I say this, but this is WWE, man. They know what they're doing.
Well, yeah, kind of.
Because I didn't see last week's SmackDown, and I did not see King of the Ring. And I expected to watch a SmackDown show and at least a little bit be confused about what was going on. I was not for 1 second. They are so good at putting together video packages and explaining what's going on. And, even little things like, the beginning of the show, AJ walks into Nick Aldis's office and he says, thought about what you said last week. If there's some time, I'd appreciate addressing my future tonight. And I thought, well, what'd you say last week? They didn't tell us. So I was like, oh, man, I'm going to be lost this entire show. But no. About 15 minutes later, they did a segment with L.A. Knight. And L.A. Knight had to talk to Adam Pearce about something. But literally, he walked in, and the first thing he said was, is AJ really retiring tonight? And I thought, okay. That cleared that up. And then, when AJ did his deal, he explained it. He said, last week, I asked Nick Aldis for another shot at Cody, and Nick Aldis said, you got to go back to the front of the line, or the back of the line, whichever is the bad place. You got to go to the back of the line.
Back of the line.
And
yes.
Essentially, AJ said, listen, I've been doing this for decades. I got miles on my body. I can't go back to the front of the line. I had
scars from Dixie.
I missed an entire show. I missed all the angles they did last week. I knew everything that happened because of the way they put this show together. And then, of course, they did the Mark Henry thing with AJ Styles, and he revealed it was all a ruse.
Yes, did a good job, but let's be fair. Nobody believed it.
You know what's funny, Mike?
This. No,
you know what's funny?
Do it.
You know what's funny? I didn't believe this for 1 second. Okay?
It was good.
I can't believe anyone else didn't buy it for 1 second. But I'm watching this frickin' show, and this crowd, they're politely applauding, they're cheering, they're chanting for AJ. Like, I'm going, are you guys, playing along?
I think
or do you
so.
actually buy this? This is ridiculous.
They were into the show.
The fans did not for 1 second, give any indication they didn't believe this guy. They're like, oh, man, thank you to blah. And then, of course, he turns and he kills this guy. Mark Henry, I will say this, Mark Henry did it better.
Yes, and that's the thing is, it's been done in wrestling for years. It will be done in wrestling forever because it's tried and true and it works. But Mark Henry did it so well, and it was at such a stage with John Cena and the salmon blazer that he had on and all that other stuff. Everything about it was so perfect that it's going to be a long time, I think, before somebody's able to top that performance and really make people believe, because a lot of people really believed in that one.
And then we had Nia Jax actually saying the words title shot. I know people claim that they've used that term lately, but I can't remember one time. You got to go back decades. She said title shot. I was so happy to not hear the words championship opportunity.
You know, they're going to tie title shot into one of their new liquor sponsors. And
Great.
You can see it out there. Like, Diageo is going to, like, put it around every local bar where you can do the, I don't know, what's their brands now? Their Hennessy, double down title shot. It's going to be amazing.
I got a lot of bitterness towards WWE 2018, 2019. Actually, I would say I got a lot of bitterness towards the entire decade of the 2010s with WWE. And one of the things that actually really does, it irritates me to no end.
Grinds your gears.
Is, how everyone goes, oh, man, I just hated that WWE verbiage, those stupid words and the banned words list and all this and that. And yes, they did do that. Okay. But you know what was worse than them doing that?
What's that?
The fact that now everyone does that. I freaking watch AEW and I hear championship opportunity. I watch New Japan, I hear championship opportunity. Mm-hmm. For some reason, it's like a generation grew up watching this horrible WWE product, and they use these words outside of WWE. It just drives me absolutely crazy. And now, what's going to be funny is now they don't have a ban list anymore. And so we're going to be like a year from now, and people are going to be talking about title shots and title belts, and then I'm going to have to be watching these other shows where everyone talks about championship opportunities. And another one?
Title eliminators?
This was actually a couple of years ago.
Aye, God.
But I went to a WWE show, and
seat filler?
I was kind of walking around, Maybe I had to urinate. I don't know. But I was walking along amongst the gentry.
The gentry?
And I heard this guy talking to his buddy about the show. Okay?
Were you peeing?
Not talking about, hey, you want to go get a hot dog? No, they were talking about, like, the show. They were talking about storylines or whatever. And this fella, it was like Michael Cole was talking to Michael Cole. I wish I would have recorded this conversation. I was like, are you both... I thought I was on Candid Camera or something. Does that show even exist?
Sports entertainment show?
These dudes were talking about storylines in total WWE speak, back and forth to each other. Like, man, AJ really wanted that title opportunity tonight, but GM Nick Aldis or whoever wouldn't allow it. So he had to go take matters. I'm like, what? What are you saying? Why are you talking like this? Because they grew up like that.
Yeah, well.
And that's the words that they used when they were talking to each other as friends. Mm-hmm. Oh, brutal.
Brian, we have lived through 3 boom periods. 84, and then the Attitude Era, then the Cena era, and now we're into this Bloodline era. But that's also a span now of 40 years. WWE has been the preeminent, dominant promotion now since 2001. That's an entire generation of people, and there is some fact to me in the idea that there are people that were so upset with WWE that they thought they honestly wanted a alternative. And I'm not saying that this is a majority of people at all. I'm saying this is just a sliver of them. But I bet you there are people that really did grow up on nothing but WWE because they never saw TNA. They really didn't watch Japan or anything. Like, this is their NFL, their NBA, their NHL. The idea of a USFL or an XFL, okay, cool. And then they saw it and went, no, I like this. Like, that to me, more than ever, WWE, as far as being the number one, and I'm not saying that there's not room for others, and I'm not saying that there shouldn't be others, but I think for a lot of people, WWE is like Kleenex, it's like UFC, it's like NFL. Like, that to them, it's only one wrestling, and that's it. And I have a feeling a lot of those people probably take in all of those terms, and whatever the buzzwords are, that's what they're going to use.
And then we had Brandon here noting it's bad when each and every one of you becomes common. Oh, I hate that one. Can we drop that one, please?
Yes, please give that its future endeavors.
I'm going to talk to everybody in the building. I want to talk to every one of you.
In the universe.
I want to talk to each of you. But why would I say I want to talk to each and every one of you? Why not say I want to talk to each and every one and all of you? Should I add more words that mean the same thing?
But notwithstanding?
Each and every one of you. Vince was the only one that said notwithstanding.
I know, from Mind of a Madman. And it went into all of these announcers, and they had them screamed into their ears for years. Like, I don't care what you say, what anybody says, the people that jumped on Corey Graves for years. Corey Graves has been great for a long time, and you can tell he's great in the fact that he was able to survive there. And yes, he was annoying, but a lot of that was pumped into his head by Vince McMahon to be that way and to play that character. But you see it with him not around anymore, how good that guy actually really is.
He's not bad.
Michael Cole, too.
He's
Michael
not bad.
Cole, too. And I know everybody's showering love on Michael Cole, but I swear. And you know what? With Vince not there, too, Wade Barrett may not be
There's no Nigel McGuinness.
The best one. Wade Barrett had kicked Nigel McGuinness's tail.
Oh, stop. Are you kidding me?
So sorry.
Kidding me. Back in a moment, Observer Live. Before we go today, I do want to give a shout out to J.D. Drake of the Workhorsemen. If you watched the show on Saturday, that was a legitimate injury. He hurt his foot doing a spot, and I don't think they have an update yet on the severity. Hopefully it's not bad. But he hurt his foot early in the match, and he rolled outside, and you can see like everybody talking to each other in the ring, and then this dude climbs back on the apron, and they go to commercial, and they come back, and he's in the ring, and like he's limping around, but he's doing the match, and at that point it's kind of like, yeah, it's a pretty gutsy thing right there. I figured he had tweaked it or something. I didn't think he was badly hurt or anything like that, but you could see as time went on, like it was bugging him, and then they built to the big spot at the end. And, the crowd was kind of not really that much into the match because they knew who was going to win. But he starts climbing the ropes, and all of a sudden this crowd starts going nuts. They're like, oh, my God, this guy's hurt, but he's climbing. And then he climbs to the second rope, and now they're making even more noise. He gets to the top rope, and he actually, on a bad foot, throws the most perfect moonsault.
For a big man.
Lands it. It was freaking beautiful. And it got the biggest pop of anything on the entire Collision show.
Yeah, it did.
I mean, there was no spot in the Ospreay match, maybe Ospreay's entrance, but like as a spot in the match, there was no spot in the match that got a bigger pop than injured J.D. Drake doing this moonsault on a bad foot. So all the best to that guy. He's a great worker.
Yes, he
They're
is.
just, you put him in the ring and everybody knows immediately who's going to win, and it kind of hurts the crowd, but underutilized guy, like a lot of guys. But anyway, hope he ends up all right. So that's it. We're going to wrap it up for today. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you next time, Wrestling Observer Live.